Welcome to the member networking event featuring the special guest, Dr. Kaizer Nyatsumba. Hosted by the Institute of Directors South Africa in partnership with Allan Gray. This event celebrates the launch of Dr. Kaizer Nyatsumba's latest autobiographical release, Corporate Businessman, A Life of Integrity, through candid reflections of his inspirational rise to acclaim in the spheres of business, politics, and journalism. From humble beginnings in White River, Mpumalanga, to being recognized for his contributions in business, journalism, and politics in acclaimed spaces worldwide, one pattern is constant throughout his newest work: integrity. For Dr. Nyatsumba, integrity beckons a greater meaning. It is a way of life that defines the lens in which he sees the world. It is the roadmap he constantly uses to change the world with his gifts. This book chronicles his ascension from his journalism beginnings to the heights of success that evoke admiration and applause. Heights that glimmer with the foundations of integrity and honor. Corporate Businessman is more than a showcase of brilliance in the business, political, and journalism acumen, but it is a testament of a man who transformed the dreams in his mind to fulfilling a reality. A beacon of hope in writing to any person that dares to dream. A story of a rose that grew from concrete, rising above great adversity to blossom as an accomplished chartered director, South Africa. Renowned journalist turned senior business executive, boasting incredible accolades and achievements worldwide. This book is detailed, vulnerable, but most importantly, an authentic read into the life of a man who has conquered it all.
Mr. Nyatsumba, I was Mr. Nyatsumba at the time. There's a call for you on the line. I took the call, and then it was not even on the line. I had to pull the car off and talk to him, to give him the attention that he deserved as a statesman. And it touched me deeply because he had dread about what had happened to me. He had dread about the litigation that I initiated. He called just to commiserate with me, to tell me that he had dread about it. He was very sorry about it, that I was doing the right thing to sue that company. Wow. Wow.
I'm fascinated by your chance meeting with O.R. Tambo during the height of our struggle. How did you meet, and what did you two guys talk about?
Okay, I was at university in Washington, D.C., called Georgetown University. It's the oldest Catholic university in the country. It's part of the Ivy League universities. It's a private university. Now, in 1986, President Ronald Reagan, for the first time, made himself available for a meeting, for the very first time ever, with the ANC, which until then they considered terrorists. They passed that year the CAAA, the Comprehensive Anti-Apartheid Act, that banned South African Airways from landing in New York, that imposed sanctions on the country. And so they invited Oliver Tambo for a meeting with George Schultz, the Under-Secretary of State for Africa. And so Oliver Tambo and Thabo Mbeki came to Washington for the first time and had this audience with George Schultz. And then Georgetown University invited them to the university and threw a dinner, a lunch in fact for them. And then they addressed the audience. And I had the fortune, I was the only South African student on the campus. I was invited by the authorities to come to attend that event. But more importantly, I sat at the main table with Oliver Tambo, Thabo Mbeki, and the Vice Chancellor of the university at the time. And so Oliver Tambo is introduced to me, and he turns around and says, "Oh, you know what? My other name is Kaizer," and I didn't believe it. It turns out actually it is. It's Oliver Reginald Kaizer Tambo. It is, but the K is often not mentioned. So yes, indeed, that's how I got to meet Oliver Tambo and Thabo Mbeki for the very first time. And then, of course, Thabo Mbeki, I went on to interact with many times subsequent to the embedding of the ANC.
On the question of integrity in the way things are unfolding, would you say confidently that, including the president, that we are led with integrity in this country?
I love that question. I love it because the title of the book originally was Integrity is My Currency. I mentioned that in the foreword. There's integrity in the foreword. It was integrity is my currency. It is the publisher that changed the title to Corporate Newsman. But I insisted on the inclusion of a life of integrity. That's what I insisted on. And I did that because for me, integrity is indeed my currency. I lived my life with integrity throughout. He taught me at secondary school. Simo was with me at Language High School. My physical science teacher was at the official book launch at Exclusive Books in Rosebank, Mr. T.B. Mokako. And there were people I've worked with. There's only one Kaizer, and they can always tell you about the same thing. I've always been a man of integrity is very critical to me. So regrettably, Lucinda, I must tell you that there's no integrity around, including on the part of Ramaphosa. There isn't. We aren't led with integrity. I'm very, very deeply disappointed about that. And in the last chapter to Reflection, the book of nature reference to, I critique present in South Africa, and I find it wanting.
The book titled South Africa and an International Brand, and how it can be marketed more effectively. Would you mind sharing some ideas of how we could present South Africa more positively today?
Yeah, thank you very much. So that book was based on my dissertation for my MBA at the University of Johannesburg. That's what I've done for it. And I sent out surveys to the top 100 leaders, CEOs of companies in London who had subsidiaries of companies in South Africa. And I asked them what they believe, what they thought of South Africa as a brand, and how the country could be marketed differently. And I read, of course, extensively on the idea of a country as a brand. And there's a corporate journal on corporate marketing, including on countries as a brand. And I wrote that dissertation. When I finished, I offered it to what is now Brand South Africa. It was International Marketing Council. I made it available to the person to whom the board of International Marketing Council reported, Dr. Eso Pahad, and I made it available to Vadi Musa, Minister of Tourism and Environmental Affairs at the time. Of course, some things they are dated considerably, but what are the things that worried people in London, business leaders? Those things are still very much the concern. They were very worried about a growing level of corruption. It's worse now than it was at the time. They're very worried about our position on Zimbabwe. Remember Thabo Mbeki was the president and we were lovey-dovey with ZANU-PF when we should have been. Remember what Mandela did? Mandela sharply criticized the Nigerian leader, Sani Abacha, when he executed the Ogoni activist, Ken Saro-Wiwa. We're not taking a similar position. And they also worried very deeply about crime in South Africa. Those are the three. They loved South Africa. They believed that there was a lot of potential, but we needed to deal with those three. And indeed, if we were to get violence under control, we have a perception problem around the world. It is not just a perception, it's a reality. If we were to get violence under control, we'd have many more people flooding to South Africa as tourists. And tourism as a sector would flourish tremendously. So those are the things that they mentioned. And I made recommendations, therefore, about what it is that needed to be done to market South Africa. There are things that can be done to market South Africa, but for as long as we have a crime problem, we will not be as effective as we could be. So get crime and corruption. Those things that detract from South Africa's brand, get those sorted out, and then market the beautiful things, many beautiful things that we have here from a tourist perspective. By various political parties. I've had 3 meetings with leaders of the Democratic Alliance at the time when I was a journalist. They tried desperately. Mike Moriarty met with me when I was still on the Star. When I came back from London, he met with me. Tony Leon had a meeting with me here in Rosebank, and I said no, and others as well. So yeah, I'm not born to be a politician. I'm not cut out to be a politician. I don't have the personality of a politician.
I was hoping you would say yes and fix our water crisis.
Well, politicians, regardless of which party they belong to, have a certain personality, and they do the same thing. Some are less corrupt than others. Some are less corrupt than others because they have not yet had the opportunity to be exposed. Wait until they run things through and then judge them at the time. So it's easy to speak and make a lot of noise when you're in opposition and criticize those who are in power. Let's judge you when you're in that room, and then let's see how you do things. So I can't praise people who have not yet, who are not yet exposed to power and to money. Let's wait until they get there and see how they behave differently.
And let me just start by apologizing for being late. I was driving from Rustenburg. I had to attend another meeting website, but through the name of the Lord, I arrived safe.
Yes.
Yes. Doctor, I think I'm at the right space because I've been thinking of writing the book about myself, of starting as a typist, and now I'm one of the mining elite in Africa. So Dr. will advise me. I've got only 2 questions for Doctor, very interesting one. What message do you hope readers take away from your autobiography, and how can they apply it to their own lives? And my second question is related to the personal growth and reflection. What were some of the most significant personal growth moments you experienced throughout your journey? And are there any regrets or lessons learned that you will share with your younger self? Thank you.
I didn't write it with a view to convert anybody, but if there's any lesson that anybody takes, I would hope that they would take a lesson about the importance of integrity. That's the one thing that I hope anybody takes away from it. I've been exposed to so many different situations and dealt with so many people, and I've immersed myself. There's not any question mark around my character or my integrity. So for me, that would be it.
What conversation would you have with your younger self? Are there any regrets?
I would be grateful. Well, firstly, I am now because of the opportunities I've had. But as a young person, I didn't believe that I'd sit here where I am now. I didn't believe I would go beyond standard 8 because the situation at home was so dire. So what I aspired to become was a health inspector. And all that required was a JC and go to Edendale College in Natal and study for a year and become a health inspector. But as I progressed, I realized that things were possible. The book also tells a story about just how fortunate I was because some perceived that I was good at academically. And I excelled in some psychometric tests, and the Homeland government of Ghana adopted me and made me its project. It looked around for the best schools to send me to. It said Amanzi Toti or Langezo High School. Toti required that I do finance and accounting. And I regret to this day not having gone there, but I would not have met Simo had I gone there. So I went to Langezo, and they paid for me. So essentially I was their ward, they looked after me. And I got scholarships, and I just saw doors after doors opening up for me. Then university, then in the UK, US, things I would never have imagined. So I don't know what I would have told my younger self. Maybe to work hard and things will happen for you. And I kept working hard, and I found I was rewarded by those who were following me. Lessons, I've walked away from opportunities. I walked away from great jobs. So have the courage to say no, to walk away from something that's very, very attractive. I worked with Mike at Sasol. You know, I was recruited, the company sent recruiters after me, and I said no. I was happy at Coca-Cola. I was public affairs and communications director. I was about to move on to be deputy managing director of Coca-Cola Canada as a chemistry. And they said no, and please just come hear us out. I went to Bryanston, I met Adcop, and they said no, the company will promise you have a global role, group general manager, responsible for corporate affairs, marketing, and BE, because BE in South Africa, but corporate affairs and marketing on a global scale. And yes, they gave me just under $1 million as a sign-on bonus. That's also that I joined. But I got there and I found out it was a sign-up job. I was not allowed to do what I was brought in. And I left. And you'll read in the book about this situation at CIFSA as well. There's also a book that our CEO there, it's the turnaround and transformation of the metals and ingredients of CIFSA. So it tells the story of how I found a company that was a cesspit of corruption that I turned around, including financially we made money, and then I left because there were people on the board who saw the opportunity to serve on the board as an opportunity to advance their own interests. And I would not allow that, so we clashed.
Magnificent view of South Africa and the world from every side, from the business side, from politics, from being a good human being. Change in South Africa at the moment is very difficult to effect. It doesn't matter whether you in the private sector or the public sector or just a good interested, good citizen. What are your thoughts on how we can affect change? What role we can play, and especially for those of us like sitting on boards. What you mentioned about directors using this position to drive their own agenda. How do we navigate the space to really start to make some significant difference in the country?
Change always starts with one person. There are people who think I am useless as an individual. I need a crowd. But in order for a crowd to form, you must have one person. So if you make a difference where you are, you speak out, you act against certain things, you talk out against certain things, there's a very good chance others always, in fact, not a good chance, people always notice. I would say to people, you are a leader in a position of responsibility, and you think that gives you privileges. Others must start at 8, you must start at 9 or past 8, or whatever. And you say people must do certain things that you don't do yourself. That is extremely destructive, because people watch what you do as a leader. Yes. And so those who might see you standing up and failing, or standing up and losing out, some we might encourage, others might be encouraged in the process. So if we all, in the respective areas where we find ourselves, took that on as a responsibility and we stood out and we did the little that we could make a difference in the little corner where we are, and it could then spread. So for me, I think that would be the message.
You remember me, Dr. Nyatsumba? First time when I met you was in Georgetown University.
Okay.
1986.
Okay.
Wow. Basically, I was there saying 10 for Ernst & Young and focusing on auditing and accounting for 6 months. So I came whilst in the middle of sharing the SAFA experience.
Yes.
You might have covered things that may probably have answered the question I'll be asking you. My question is simply, have you ever served in a board which you regard as exemplary, effective, and if so, what highlights can you give in terms of distinguishing it as such?
Tough question. I almost said there wasn't, but there's one that comes to mind. It was extremely dysfunctional when I joined. It was the board of the South African Dental Association. Now, that isn't a board representing professionals who are dentists. And its MOI says the board members will be judges, and the only two non-executive directors, independent non-executive directors. So I became the lead non-executive director, and it was extremely dysfunctional because they were fighting among themselves. And when I left after the end of my 2-year term, things were very different. And in fact, to do the CDSA, it was the chairperson of the direct board who reflected positively on the experience that I did. So I was able to be a role, to be a voice for reason, and to get those directors, and we arranged various training opportunities for them and things. But when I left, when my second term ended, things were much better. It was functional at the time. It was not when I joined.
Dr. Nyatsumba, thank you very much for gracing us with your presence.
Thank you.
And I've read Corporate Newsman. It is a powerful reflection on leadership, ethics, and resilience. And I look forward to collaborating with you in publishing our book of short stories next year. I really look forward to that. And I'm glad that your premonition to die at an early age didn't materialize. I'm glad you lived, because the literary world is all the richer because you lived. And may God keep you strong.
Thank you very much. If I could, thank you so much. If I could just pardon me, use this opportunity to say, by the way, Simo writes fiction as well. He wrote a book of short stories. No, it's a novel in Zulu years ago. Very good book. I don't know if it's still available, but he also writes on business and things related to things that boards of directors should focus on. So there's another writer here.
What's the title of your Zulu book? Into two ways emhlangi.
And it's about corruption.
Oh, okay.
Here are some images from the night. Thank you for watching, and please make sure to purchase Dr. Kaizer Nyatsumba's new autobiographical release, Corporate Businessman, A Life of Integrity, at any bookstore of your choice.